Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading over to Abuja, Nigeria, virtually of course, to explore a really interesting event focused on irregular migration.
Yeah, it's called Between Borders, Conversations on Migration. We're basing this on a newspaper piece that covered it. It was put together by the Eastern Nigeria Film and Arts Initiative, ENFAI, and the British Council.
Exactly. And the goal here, for you listening, is to really get under the skin of this issue, the human impact, the complex reasons behind irregular migration.
And we'll do that using this event, and especially the documentary they showed, as our guide.
So the event itself kicked off with networking, a pre-event cocktail thing.
Hosted by Uju Dubasagbasi from the British Council, apparently in their garden. Sounds like a nice, maybe slightly informal way to start things off.
Yeah, easing into a heavy topic, perhaps. Then things got more formal with the opening address.
Right, from Chikoti Onyemarela, Director of Programs at the British Council, Abuja. The article suggests he set a thoughtful, maybe even introspective tone.
Okay. And then the keynote speaker.
That was Her Excellency, Ambassador Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu, the Honorable Minister of State for International Affairs.
And her main point.
Collaboration, a real push for African countries to work together much more closely on these migration challenges. Urgent collaboration was the phrase used, I think.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's get to the heart of it, the documentary screening. No U-turn.
Yes, award-winning film. And it seems like it really packed a punch.
What's the angle? How does it approach the subject?
Well, it's interesting because it's quite personal. The filmmaker, Ike Nanobu, he actually revisits a migration route he himself considered taking years ago.
Oh, wow. So it blends memoir with, investigative filmmaking.
Exactly. That personal stake must make it incredibly compelling. It's not just observing from a distance.
You'd think so. And the article mentions the people he meets along the way. West African migrants.
Yeah, people in really tough spots, stranded, sometimes for years, wanting to go home but facing, shame, unfulfilled dreams.
That's heartbreaking.
It does, but the piece also mentions their resilience, their hope, even in those situations. It clearly had a big emotional impact on the audience watching.
I can only imagine. And after the film, they had a panel discussion.
Correct. Seems like that was the space to really unpack everything the film brought up.
Makes sense. Who led that?
It was moderated by Ujuaku Nwakalora Kukwe. She was also the curator and the impact producer for the film itself, and Dr. Oguzi Ugru.
Okay, so people deeply involved. And what were the main themes they tackled?
A key one was the asymmetry of information. Basically, people often don't have the full picture of the dangers involved in irregular migration.
So they hear the good stories, maybe see stuff online, but not the risks.
Precisely. That imbalance, that lack of accurate info, is a huge push factor. It makes the dangerous journey seem more appealing than it should.
That's a really important point. Did they talk about the why from within Nigeria, too?
Definitely. Youth unemployment came up strongly. Lack of opportunities at home.
The classic push factors.
Exactly. And when young people feel stuck, they become, vulnerable to traffickers and smugglers making false promises. Desperation versus risk calculation.
A grim calculation.
Yeah.
So did the panel touch on solutions, policy ideas?
Yes. A big focus was on the need for safe and legal migration channels, like actively creating them.
Making it a priority.
Yeah. Things like better visa processes, clear pathways for people wanting to work abroad legally, and, crucially, protecting migrants' rights along the way.
So offering real alternatives.
That's the idea. Reduce the demand for the dangerous routes.
And the panel members themselves sounds like a diverse group.
Very much so. You had Francois Xavier from the IOM, the International Organization for Migration, bringing that on-the-ground perspective.
Okay.
Then Ron Hendricks and Franklin Ngwendia from the EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, offering more of a regional international policy view.
And the Nigerian government perspective.
Represented by Ambassador George Adokpa, standing in for the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs.
Got it.
And importantly, Uri Ngozi Chukwuka from the Empathy-Driven Women Initiative, Edwin, bringing in that vital civil society voice, people working directly with communities.
Wow, so you had the international, the regional, the national, and the grassroots civil society angle all in one discussion.
Exactly. Which really drives home that you need everyone working together on this. It's not just one group's problem or responsibility. It has to be this multi-layered approach.
That makes perfect sense. The article also lists quite a few other prominent attendees, doesn't it?
It does. People from the U.S. Embassy, from GIZ, big names in Nollywood and Kannywood like Ahmad Sarari, Michael Chineme Ike, Balaji Alange.
Media figures, too, like Nyota Egbe from Channels TV.
Right. It really shows how broad the engagement is. This isn't just a niche issue. It cuts across different sectors. Everyone seems to recognize something needs to be done.
Let's circle back to the filmmaker, Ike Ndebu. His description of the film, a love letter to every young African feeling trapped. That's quite a statement.
It really is. And he also called it a challenge to our leaders in society to create those opportunities at home.
So it's not just about documenting the problem, but pointing towards internal solutions.
Absolutely. Addressing the root causes that make people feel they have to leave in the first place.
And Ujuaku Noakalar Akukwe, the impact producer, she talked about the event's purpose beyond just that one evening.
Yeah, she described Between Borders as just a starting point, using creative advocacy, the film, the stories, to actually drive change.
Creative advocacy, I like that. Using art for impact.
Exactly. And the concrete plan is this youth screening tour, taking no U-turn directly to schools, universities across Nigeria.
Empowering young people with, well, perspective and information.
That's the goal. The article lists places like Edo, Kano, Lagos, Abia, Delta. It's a significant rollout.
A nationwide effort.
It seems so. And they're looking for partners, institutions, youth groups, anyone who wants to help expand this conversation.
There's a powerful quote mentioned from someone who attended the screening.
Yes. This film doesn't just tell the story, it forces us to reckon with it.
That really says something about its power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not passive viewing.
No, it sounds like it demands engagement, forces you to confront the reality, the human cost, moves it beyond just numbers or news reports.
And the article connects all this to the term japa being so common in Nigeria now.
Yeah, that's a key piece of context. Japa, meaning to flee, to escape, is apparently a household word.
Which just highlights how widespread this desire or maybe perceived need to leave is.
Exactly. So a film like No U-Turn lands in that context as a really timely human look at what that impulse actually involves, the dangers and the complexities.
So boiling it down, this Between Borders event using the film is really posing a fundamental question.
It seems so. It's asking, how do we get to a place where migration is a real choice, an informed choice, driven by opportunity, not desperation?
Not the last resort it often seems to be.
Precisely. How do we ensure it's about agency, not just survival?
And just to repeat for anyone listening who might be interested in getting involved with those youth screenings.
The contact email provided is ujuaku@nfa.org. That's ujuaku at enfai.org.
Great. So wrapping up our deep dive today.
Well, I think the key takeaway is how this event Between Borders, and particularly the documentary No U-Turn, really shines a light on the very human, very complex reality of irregular migration.
It goes beyond the politics or the statistics to the personal cost.
Exactly. And it underscores the urgent need for solutions that are multifaceted, addressing root causes like unemployment, improving information access, and creating safer pathways. Collaboration is key.
It's a stark reminder to look at the individual stories, the people affected, not just the phenomenon itself.
Which leads to a final thought maybe for you to consider. Thinking about those powerful personal stories in No U-Turn, what are some ways, maybe overlooked ways, that individuals, that communities themselves could actually help create an environment where deciding to migrate is a more informed, truly voluntary choice?
Beyond the big policy changes, what can be done at a more local, personal level?
Yeah, something to mull over.